Do you have open world gacha game fatigue, rotation slot fatigue? Well, I've probably got some news for you that's not going to be overly exciting, but there's a couple of reasons I want to talk about this game in particular today, which you're going to get into. But we do have another open world rotation gacha game that seems like it's going to compete with Nevernis to Evernis and sort of by proxy and Nanta, even though that's not a gacha game, but we all know that they're going to be sort of indirectly competing because they're in the anime space. And this game is called Wang Yue. And the reason I want to talk about this today is because looking at the new footage, we've got a trailer that's going around for the CBT that's doing the rounds at the minute. We're going to look at, but I also want to show you some gameplay from China as well, which that's the reason I want to talk about it more than anything, is they've made some drastic improvements, some major improvements, in my opinion, to the prior footage that we saw in terms of a visual aspect and in terms of just a pure combat aspect as well. And when we look at the actual city now, they have drastically improved the design format. Like, the graphics are much better, but also just the theme and the design in general looks so much better than what we got before. Now, it looks like they've made some changes as well, potentially to the monster stuff, but I can't really go into that necessarily because a lot of it I don't know because it's not translated. So anybody who can give me that info, or the CM bros, I would massively appreciate it. So let's check out the trailer, let's check out the website, and we're going to check out that bit of gameplay footage and compare it to some of the other gameplay that we've seen prior, because I believe there's been a drastic improvement, and I think that has to be applauded. These guys have been away, being quiet, and have been working, and that's good to see, right? But are you going to be interested with a game like this? I don't know. I'm a little bit on the fence for me. There's parts of it that look good, but then I'm like, man, I'm getting a little bit burnt out on these games at the minute in terms of the open world rotation gacha game. But we're going to give it a chance, and I think there's some cool things that look good about this. So let's hop on over, let's check out the trailer and check out the other stuff as well then, yeah, guys? Let me know what you think down below as well. All right, let's start off with this CBT trailer that's doing the rounds at the moment. Now, I can't speak Mandarin or CN, right? So I'm assuming that means that the CBT or the offline test starts next month. I think the 19th to the 20th of June, but don't quote me on that. So we'll check this out. We'll have a look at this bit of gameplay that's over on Bilibili as well. We'll discuss some potential where it's at compared to where this is at, because there is some changes as well. We'll have a look over at the website, and then we'll have a look at some of the old gameplay as well and talk about it, because there's been some huge changes within this game. So, all right, let's check out this trailer that's doing the rounds now. I'd love to know what you guys think about this, because I'm kind of interested to see what the consensus is, what people are thinking about the game at the moment. So let's get into it. Let's see here, urban environment, bike, car. We've got little monster creatures that are walking around the town, which they look like they're going to have a sort of a bang boo effect. And then straight into gameplay. So one thing I want to just pause it quickly to say, this, I don't know, it looks like it's potentially more likely running on Unity. Now, I can't say for definite, right? I'm just looking at it from a visual standpoint, but it looks a little bit more akin to something like Enfield. Doesn't look as good as Enfield. I have to put that out there. But it doesn't look like it's like really leaning into that sort of super heavy lighting that we tend to get in Unreal games. So I'm not too sure there. The character models look nice as well. But if you have a little look at the UI, I want to point out the UI here, because the other gameplay, things look a little bit different. The same, but slightly different as well. So it looks like we've got like a jump here. It's got a motorbike symbol though. We've got a car, and we've got this eye thing here as well. Don't know what the hell that is. So looks like we could switch to a car, and then we've got a left shift for a motorbike as well. But we've got three characters that we can switch between here on the screen on the UI. And then we've got the standard UI at the top and the map. I'm pointing that out because I want to show you the difference with the actual combat footage, right? So let's continue. The world looks nice, right? The city looks nice. Drastic improvements on what we saw before. Massive improvements, in my opinion. So it looks like each characters potentially have their own utility. By the looks of it, she's got this hover scooter, and the other characters got the rollerblades, which might be interesting. We might be seeing a bit of an NTE thing here, where certain characters might just have advantages in certain situations in terms of exploration, which they show you right now, actually. It's minor, but just to point out, this was cool, right? You know, we can grind and wall ride with the rollerblades, which is kind of dope. So like I say, the city itself looks really nice, actually. Again, massive improvements on what it looked like before. And then we switch to this character. So I don't know if we have a bike or the bikes for this character, because I believe this is the MC, right? This is the main character. I don't know if we can go around stealing cars or requisitioning cars or whatever. I'm not too sure. Be interested to find out. But one thing I will say right off the bat, the physics on the motorbike look a bit meh. And I haven't seen an anime gacha game yet that has done physics well. The bike and Wuthering Waves for me lacks a lot in terms of the physics, but I can let that slide a little bit because they're doing wacky stuff with that. It's not even supposed to feel like a real bike, right? But still, I don't like the physics. The physics in NTE leave a lot to be desired. And Nanta looks like it might be the best, but even still with the Nanta, it looks like it's got some work to do as well. But again, this bike, it just looks a bit off, right? It looks a bit uncanny valley. It just looks like it's kind of designed for mobile, right? But like the environments look really nice, right? Like the city looks cool, it looks vast. Like it looks like we've got a lot of stuff to explore if all of that is explorable, right? And you can see here we've got the 19th for the 6th and the 20th for the 6th. So next month, toward the end of next month, it looks like that might be the test. Anybody who can read that, is that what's happening? Is that when the test is? I don't even know, right? So that's the CBT trailer. And now, if we go over to Billy, we've got some actual combat gameplay. And the reason why I made a point of pointing out the UI, if you look at this, now this is about a month old, this footage. Now, we might have seen a UI change, right? Or it's just because we're in combat. Now, I don't know, because like this is the same on the UI at the top right here. And we've got the same map. And everything else looks the same, apart from the way the characters are set up here, right? They're not in that sort of half diamond shape. We've just got the characters lined up vertically here, and then we can actually see our little creatures, which if we head over to the website, right, these are our like little, I think they kind of work sort of like bang boos and echoes. I'm not too sure if they have passives and stuff, passive stats and like gear, and they have an active role within combat as well. So I'm not entirely sure, but if I remember correctly from the old gameplay we saw, that it does look like they potentially kind of work like gear as well. So there might be passive and active uses to them. If you can see here in this gameplay, looks like we're rocking a little corgi. So it gets involved in the combat as well, right? So again, I'm a little bit like, I don't know when this gameplay comes from. If it's a bit, like you see here, UI is exactly the same here. It's just the characters have changed. So let's watch it anyway. Let's watch it. Because for me, the combat, it's nothing like, it's not breaking them all, but it looks pretty decent. We've got perfect dodges and counters by the looks of it as well. We've got cool animations for the characters, right? We've got the character switching here also. And if you look, we've got a break bar, the typical standard affair, right? And we do have the ability to parry as well in the game, which you can see there. Parry took a lot off the break bar, so as usual, parrying's going to be quite useful. And if you can see it, sorry, I've got hay fever at the minute. If you can see here, the two characters are glowing, so I'm assuming when they're glowing that you're going to get some sort of benefit for switching to them. Obviously, I'm guessing there's going to be typical synergy, which is going to benefit, you know, in terms of switching to a character, in damage amps, synergies, all that sort of stuff, right? But there's a little thing that's slightly different. So both characters are glowing, but these two characters have these next to them. Now, I don't know if that's your little bang boo ability or what. I'm not too sure, because they both have a tick next to them, which makes me think you get some benefit from switching to them. But why do these two have this sort of like, looks like it's a swap icon, right? I'm not too sure what that is there. And then this R button down here, I think that might be for our little creature, unless it's an alt, I'm not too sure. So they've definitely got some sort of active involvement in the combat, right? Which you can see them doing little moves from time to time. Which, hey, it's kind of cool, right? Anybody who's played ZZZ will have seen Bang Boos getting involved with the combat. And I will say, like, you know, the animations for the characters, they look pretty slick, especially when you compare to what they look like. They look so much better. But the combat itself, I think actually looks decent. Now, this enemy's not really posing a threat, right? I'm interested to see as well, because if you look, there's nobody around. So is this like a jeu familiar? Because if I remember correctly, with jeu familiar, when you get involved in engage in fights in the open world, it's almost like everything deloads and you're sort of fighting in an instance, because it seems like there's a bit of a ring around you. I don't know if you can then try to escape from that, if you know what I mean, kind of like old school JRPGs if you play them, where you can actually escape fights or what. But I don't know, like, this doesn't act like a boss, but at the same time, it looks like this is a specific instance where everything else is deloaded from the map by the looks of things. Because there's nothing going on around us. Like, the enemy design's kind of cool, right? It's a shark dude. And the animations of the characters do look really slick, I think. I think, like, this looks very Wuthering Waves, for better or for worse, right? Can it compete with WoW? It's going to be difficult because Wuthering Waves does combat really, really well, right? But, yeah, like, actually looking at the animations and stuff, they look kind of clean, man. This is why I wanted to show this, because the trailer itself, I think now people have got a bit of fatigue with those sort of trailers. We want to see gameplay and combat, right? I think if I'll be that guy and I compare this with NTE, I think this looks like it's got better combat than Neverness to Everness, right? Whether it can do the rest of the game as well is a different thing, because I think Neverness to Everness does a real good job at that, just less so with the combat. But if we jump over, I wanted to show you this as well, because if you look at some of the older footage, right, there's definitely an improvement here, right? Like, look at the UI improvements. The UI looks so much better than it did before. The characters look better. The animations look better. It just looks overall better, in my opinion. Some of these characters, the models, actually look kind of decent. But I think we've seen a bit of an improvement in terms of where the game's at. The little creatures that you've got with you as well look better also. But we've seen an improvement, right? And if we go back to, this is the footage that I remember. Now, this is one thing I hope they've actually kept in the game, because if you saw the old footage, right, basically, you know the sort of gameplay mechanic that you have in the Zelda games, in the newer ones, right, where you can, like, create these constructions and like fly them around and drive them around, these little constructs. You can do that in this. So you build a thing and then you can deploy it in combat. So you can have, like, you can build a turret and then you're fighting a boss and you deploy this turret and it starts fighting with you. And if you can see here, they've built like a flying vehicle made out of, like, cars and different components. Kind of wacky. Looked a little bit jank in the gameplay, but I really like that idea. It's quite unique, and I'd like something like that for the gameplay. You're in a hard fight, you start dropping down these constructs, and you play off the constructs, right? That's actually kind of unique, so I do hope that's been kept in the game. But I want to point out as well, you know, if you look at the city, and look at the graphics, it looks like we've got environmental interaction here. This looks maybe we're doing something with a bar or a homestead or something. The graphics now look much better, and the environmental design looks much better. Because if we go over to the website and actually look at the city, look at the drastic difference there. Look at the drastic difference in terms of what we're getting in the city. It just, obviously it's visually better from a fidelity standpoint, right? But from a design standpoint, we've gone from what looks sort of like a plasticine, plastic fantasy city into a lot more grounded city. Because I was looking at the comments through Billy, apparently these locations are all based on places in China as well. So it makes sense that they've gone for a bit more of a grounded approach by the looks of it. So I don't know if that means those constructs are now gone, which if they are, it's kind of sad if I'm honest, because that's quite a unique thing that other games aren't really doing in this space. It's ripped straight out of Zelda. Who cares, right? If they do it well, they do it well, right? That's the big question hanging over this game. We've got an Ant to come in. We've got NTE. Is this going to be just more, or is it going to be better? At the moment, there's nothing screaming it's going to be better. Other than, I think, personally, that little snippet of combat, I think kind of does look better than NTE, but it's kind of hard to say, right? It is honestly kind of hard to say, because NTE's combat doesn't look bad. It just doesn't feel spectacular to me. It's quite simplistic, right? And most gacha combat, action combat, is somewhat simplistic, but this just looks a little bit more fluid for me. So as I say, I think the city, big improvement. I think the visuals overall, big improvement, right? And we can have a little look here. We can have a look at some of the characters. We've got this dude who's looking a little bit like Thorns, but looks kind of badass. We've got this Mega Milf here. You know, we've got the freaking Lolly character, of course. You know, the characters look pretty decent. I like the look of these characters as well. These are the MCs. So this is your male MC and your female MC. So pretty standard affair. The sort of neutered, colourless MC, pardon me, that we get in gacha games that kind of makes you want to... They don't want to upstand the bride, which is the characters you're going to pull for, right? But the reason I wanted to talk about this is, as I say, drastic improvements in the visual design, in the characters in general, in the environment in general, and the combat itself is looking quite good. But as I say, I'm really interested is this just a different UI in combat, or has the UI changed altogether? Because we've got two UIs. If you look at like this UI compared to this UI, I think this probably looks a little cleaner, if I'm honest. But I don't know. What do you think? Which one looks better? Again, this could just be a change in UI when you're in combat, right? I honestly don't know. Looking at these, where we've got these little dots, is that something that comes up to let you know when to switch? But if you look there, if you look just next to the characters, you see this almost what looks like a kind of switch icon. That's somewhat similar to this icon, right? So maybe that bit of the UI has just been moved over to here now, and that's where your little creatures are going to pop up. I don't know. I don't know, honestly. Or maybe they've got a different function in combat. This is only from like a month ago, though, these footages, but I don't know when it was recorded. Looking at Billy, it was uploaded like a month or two ago. So it's hard to say if they've changed the UI that much that quickly. These guys are not stopping with continuation of upgrades and working on the game, which, as I say, really good to see. Looking at some of the cars, though, some of them look a little bit... We'll have to see. We haven't really seen any cars, right? Maybe you can just drive the motorbikes. If you can, that'll kind of be whack, because then these are just window dressing. We'll have to wait and see, won't we? But in terms of the open world, it looks nice, but it's not really screaming anything to me. It kind of like, there's not many people around. It looks a little bit empty in places. In other places, it looks a bit better. I'm always willing to try these sort of games out, though. But I don't know if it's going to offer anything more than what NTE is offering here. But in terms of the combat, maybe. But visually, it's hard to say. Like, it looks really nice in some angles. And then other angles, I'm like... I don't know. It does look like it might be on Unity, though, but it doesn't hold a candle to Arknight's Enfields in the visual department, if you ask me. But anyway, guys, what do you think down below? Is this just another slot game that you are not interested in, or are you actually kind of excited to give it a whirl? What do you think about the combat as well? I'll be really interested. And what do you think about the improvements? Because I think this is massively improved. I think that's fair. That's my opinion, though, but I think that's fair. I'd love to know what you think. Has it improved? What do you think about the constructs? Would you like to see those? But do you even care? I'd like to know down below. Guys, if you've enjoyed the video, found it enjoyable, give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you all in the next one. Ta-ra.